All right. Hello and welcome to TSO Tots at TADL. My name is Mr. Matt from the East Bay branch of the Traverse Area District Library. And we are happy here to have Angela Aleo and Gary Gatzke from the Traverse Symphony Orchestra. And we're going to do a little program for you with some music and some reading. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So we're very glad you're here. Right now, I'm going to turn it over to Angela.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to say thank you for joining us. We're so excited to be starting our new Tots at TADL series, which is going to be once a month for the next, including this one, 4 months. And today we are going to be featuring the string family with our wonderful principal bass player, Gary Gatzke, who has also just taken over our wonderful civic string chamber music program from Stephen Leonard, who is retired. And so we will miss Stephen, but we are excited to have Gary starting this new program. And we're excited to see where it's going to go. And so we want to thank the Ball, Biederman, Dow Foundations, and the Michigan Council for the Arts and Cultural Affairs and the National Endowment for the Arts for allowing us to put on this wonderful programming. And on behalf of the Traverse Symphony Orchestra, we're just so excited to be able to share with you our wonderful musicians and their instruments that they play. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it back over to Mr. Matt and Gary.
All right, thanks, Angela. Okay, we're going to get started with a book, and it's called Never Play Music Right Next to the Zoo by John Lithgow, and it's illustrated by Lisa Hernandez. And I would also like to make sure that we thank the publisher, Simon & Schuster Books for Young Readers, for giving us permission to use this book in our online program today. Never Play Music Right Next to the Zoo by John Lithgow and Lisa Hernandez. I went to a concert when I was a lad, no older than many of you. I sat with my sister, my mother, my dad, at a band shell right next to the zoo. The soft summer air was so balmy and sweet, and the program was running so long that I found myself falling asleep in my seat, despite all the music and song. All at once, the conductor erupted with rage. A band of wild animals was storming the stage. Oh, children, remember, whatever you may do, never play music right next to the zoo. They'll burst from their cages, each beast and each bird, desperate to play all the music they've heard. The lions and the elephants, the bears and the raccoons will steal away the trumpets, the flutes and bassoons. Replace the musicians and chase them away. Then they'll sit in the band shell and play. The monkeys played fiddle. The bison played bass. The percussions were manned by the camel. The yak played the sax until red in the face, a surprisingly musical mammal. The bonobo played oboe, the ferret the flute. The jackal attacked the bassoon. The hippo had chosen the tuba to toot by the light of the silvery moon. Siberian tigers, Mongolian goats, a superabundance of bestial notes. As the animal orchestra filled up the air with chaos, confusion, and clatter, the audience calmly continued to stare as if nothing at all was the matter. I trembled with terror, suppressing a scream while my parents just sat there enraptured. Oh, how I wished it was only a dream and those creatures all safely recaptured. But since by the minute I'd grown less afraid, I decided to sit back and watch while they played. They finished, and each put his instrument down. then bowed and descended the stage. Each shed his tuxedo or evening gown and hurried back home to his cage. Then each reminisced, so grateful and glad, so full of contentment and pride. My mother, meanwhile, strolled away with my dad, but my sister remained by my side. She tugged on my sweater and spoke in my ear. You'd better wake up or we're leaving you here. Oh, children, remember, whatever you do, never play music right next to the zoo. They'll burst from their cages, each beast and each bird, desperate to play all the music they've heard. No, never play music right next to the zoo, and pay strict attention to rule number 2. Bear it in mind for the rest of your days. Don't fall asleep when an orchestra plays. I think that's good advice. What do you think? All right, I'm going to introduce Gary Gatzke, the principal double bass player of the Traverse Symphony Orchestra, and he's going to show you a little bit about some instruments. Gary?
Thank you, Matt. Good morning, everyone. We're so thrilled that you've chosen to join us today to learn about the string instruments of the orchestra. Today, we're going to focus on 2 instruments, and those are the 2 largest instruments of the orchestra, the cello and the double bass. The cello and the double bass are unique aside from the violin and the viola. Viola is kind of a strange instrument that you probably haven't heard of yet, but you'll learn more as you get older. But both the cello and the bass have this thing called an end pin. So you see this long metal rod. This allows us to put it on the floor and rest the instrument on the floor. Like the violin and the viola, the cello and the bass have strings, and they can be plucked with a finger, and it's in an Italian term called pizzicato, which is super cool. Also, in the string family, we use something called a bow. So you've heard of maybe a bow and arrow, or a bow you put on a gift. This is also called a bow, and it's made of wood and horsehair, because horsehair is very coarse and has tons of little fingers that are grabbing the string. So I'll play with the bow on the cello, and you can hear what the sound that it makes. So it's long and sustained. Which is kind of neat. So the cello, again, is somewhat of a large instrument, but in a minute, you're gonna see the double bass, which is a super large instrument. In alignment with the story you just heard, I'm going to play you a piece that's called the Swan from Saint-Saëns's Carnival of the Animals. So in the comfort of your own home or wherever you may be in the backseat of a moving vehicle, pretend that you're a beautiful, graceful swan as you listen to the Swan on the cello. So can you imagine a beautiful swan out on the water? Could be a small lake or a river, just sauntering about, floating so gently. Another piece I'm going to play for you comes from an opera. Now, an opera is a very large musical piece. It includes singers. It includes an orchestra. There could be some acting and dancing. And it's really a very, very large production, which you would go to see at an opera house. And if you live locally, Traverse City has an opera house. And you should go visit it someday. It's a really cool building. So I'm going to play a habanera from Bizet's Carmen, which is an opera in the French language. So if any of you speak French, parlez-vous français, you would be able to read the score or read the libretto rather, and your parents can read it to you and you might understand, but maybe later in life. There were some missing parts there that I had to remember how to play. So thank you for enjoying that. So we're going to move on from the cello to my main instrument, the double bass. So if you can imagine an animal in the orchestra that would mimic this instrument, think to yourself, what might it be? What's a really large animal that you might find at the zoo? Think about that. I'm going to do a quick scene change. You're also patient. So think again of that large animal. What's it going to be? All right, everyone, look at this gigantic instrument. And like the cello, it also has an end pin. So you put it on the floor, and then it also, like the cello, has a scroll where all of the strings are attached. So I had mentioned an animal in the zoo. What do you think might be that biggest animal in the zoo? If you said elephant, you're correct. So, in line with Camille Saint-Saëns' Carnival of the Animals, I'm going to play the elephant from the Carnival of the Animals. sounds like an elephant, doesn't it? So yeah, that sounded nice and heavy, like an elephant moving throughout, either out in the wild or in their big cage at the zoo. So the double bass has strings like the violin, viola, and cello. They're much longer, and by having a longer string, you can create a deeper tone. So the highest string on the double bass is the G. And sounds like that. Sounds pretty low. Now the lowest note the double bass can make is a low C. And I hope this comes through the microphone because it's super low. Isn't that cool? Super low and sort of spooky, and it rumbles and shakes the room. It's a lot of fun. The next piece I'm going to play for you is a horn excerpt from Tchaikovsky's Fifth Symphony. And it is a slow, beautiful horn solo that fits quite nicely on the double bass. Going a little lower. All right, that was super low and kind of lyrical. Also, again, that was from a symphony, which is a large orchestra piece that has 4 movements and typically demonstrates a lot of the different sections of the orchestra. But that was a horn part, but it's always fun to play on the strings. Well, that is my presentation today, and I hope that you all enjoyed listening to the cello and the double bass. And you can hear and see these instruments live at the Traverse Symphony Orchestra. So visit the Traverse Symphony Orchestra's website for upcoming concerts and come and join us. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Gary. That was beautiful. It's amazing how you can make such a huge instrument sound so beautiful and melodic. Right now, I'd like to see if there's anyone that has any questions for Gary that we can ask him about the cello or the double bass or about the Traverse Symphony Orchestra. So if you have questions, you can put them in the chat or the question and answer portion of Zoom, or you can raise your hand and I can allow you to turn on your video so you can talk to us and ask your question directly. So while we're waiting to see if anyone has any questions, Gary, I have a question for you. My son has always been interested in a double bass, but when he was younger, he was concerned that it was such a huge instrument. Is it hard to carry around and lug around to everything?
No, not at all. The bass itself is kind of bulky in size, but it's hollow. So it's not too heavy. So as long as you have a vehicle that you can fit it into, and there are even small cars that basses can fit in. So really, it's not that difficult to transport or to walk around with. And even sometimes you can take out the end pin. So we looked at the end pin at the bottom of the bass. You can take that pin and you can put a tire in the bottom and actually move the bass around with a tire.
That's pretty cool. And so it's more mobile than it seems.
Yeah.
All right, I have another question for you. I don't see any questions from our attendees right now. I've just always been curious. They call it the double bass. Is there such a thing as a single bass?
You know, they call it double bass because it's, you know, we read the same music as the cello being the bass line of a potentially a string quartet or Baroque music, Renaissance music. And the bass actually reads the same music, but we sound an octave lower. So there's the bass line, but you kind of double it. And there we have the double bass playing an octave lower than what's written.
Interesting. Cool. All right. Well, I don't see any other questions. Oh, now I see one. Hold on a second. Ethan wants to know if your bass has a name.
It does. And I'll tell you a little bit about my bass. So my bass, it's a very special bass. Her name is Helga. So she's German. She's a little over 160 years old. So imagine what life was like when this double bass was made 160 years ago. I purchased this bass from a member of the Detroit Symphony, which is a major orchestra in the United States, from a gentleman who joined the orchestra a few years ago. This instrument in particular, though, has played in the New York Philharmonic. It's been in the Metropolitan Opera Orchestra. It's spent a good maybe 20 years with a person in the Lyric Opera of Chicago. Looking back on its ancestry, we know that it was a part of a circus in California in the early 1900s.
Wow, that's cool. Does Helga have more fun with you, or did she have more fun in the circus?
Jury's out on that one. So.
All right. Great. Thank you so much for that question, Ethan. Does anyone have any other questions? All right. Well, Gary, thank you very much. I really appreciate you being here. We are going to do a little musical activity, keeping the beat. And so please feel free to join me for that. And then I'm going to tell you a little bit about something that you can get for free if you come to the Traverse Area District Library. So thanks so much, Gary. Right now, I want you to keep the beat with me, okay? You can use your hands on your lap and go ahead. Ba-dum ba-da-ba-da-bum ba-dum ba-da-ba-da-bum ba-dum ba-dum ba-da-ba-da-bum ba-dum ba-da-ba-da-bum ba-dum 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 ba-da-ba-da-bum ba-dum ba-dum ba-da-ba-da-bum bum ba-dum ba-da-ba-da-bum ba-da-dum. Great. Let's find another way to keep the beat. Maybe we'll keep the beat on our heads. Ready? Ba-dum ba-da ba-da bum ba-dum ba-da ba-da bum ba-dum ba-dum ba-da ba-da bum ba-dum ba-da ba-da bum ba-dum 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 ba-da ba-da bum ba-dum ba-dum ba-da ba-da bum ba-dum ba-da ba-da bum ba-da-dum. Nice job. How about let's try on our shoulders. Ba-dum ba-da ba-da bum ba-dum ba-da ba-da bum ba-dum ba-dum ba-da ba-da bum ba-dum ba-da ba-da bum ba-dum 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 ba-da ba-da bum ba-dum ba-dum ba-da ba-da bum ba-dum ba-da ba-da bum ba-dum. You guys are doing a great job. Can you think of somewhere else we can keep the beat? I know. How about our belly? Ba-dum ba-da ba-da bum ba-dum ba-da ba-da bum ba-dum ba-dum ba-da ba-da bum ba-dum ba-da ba-da bum ba-dum 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 ba-da ba-da bum ba-dum ba-dum ba-da ba-da bum ba-dum ba-da ba-da bum ba-dum. Awesome. Any other ways we can keep the beat? How about on our cheeks? Ba-dum ba-da ba-da bum ba-dum 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 ba-da ba-da bum ba-dum ba-da ba-da bum ba-dum 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 ba-da ba-da bum ba-dum ba-dum ba-da ba-da bum yum ba-dum ba-da ba-da bum ba-dum. Great. Let's see, one more. How about let's keep the beat on our chin. Ba-dum ba-da ba-da bum ba-dum ba-da ba-da bum ba-dum ba-dum ba-da ba-da bum ba-dum ba-da ba-da bum ba-dum 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 ba-da ba-da bum ba-dum ba-dum ba-da ba-da bum yum ba-dum ba-da ba-da bum ba-dum. Nice job. You are very good at keeping the beat. All right. Well, we've had a great program today, and I want to tell you about something. We have, if you don't have any musical toys at your house, we have a little kit full of musical toys that you can come and pick up for free. It's got little rhythm sticks, so you can keep the beat with those. It's got an egg shaker. You can use that to play music and keep the beat. It's got a little drum that you can decorate yourself. It's just a can, and it's got some stickers in and paper you can tape on and draw on or use stickers to decorate, and a scarf that you can use to dance around with. And my favorite thing in this kit is a kazoo that says Traverse Symphony Orchestra on it. So if you want one of these, just stop by the main branch or the East Bay branch of the Traverse Area District Library and just ask for one and we'll give it to you. And then you'll have it for next month so you can play along. Now, next month, we're going to have Tess Miller, flute player from the Traverse Symphony Orchestra, and she's going to play some music on the flute for you. And we will also have Melanie from KinderMusik to do some fun musical activities with you. So next month will be at 11 o'clock on March 12th. So I hope to see you all there, and I'm really glad you all came. On behalf of the Traverse Area District Library and the Traverse Symphony Orchestra, I hope that you had a good time today, and I hope that we'll see you next month. Bye-bye.